Welcome, and thank you for joining the LRE webinar today. This is the Connecting the Dots, Least Restrictive Environments portion of the series. I'm going to just make sure we give everyone a second to join on and get situated in the webinar. Right. All right. We're going to go ahead and give everyone a few seconds here to join on. This is the Connecting the Dots, Least Restrictive Environment portion, and I'm so excited that you're here today. Right now, we just have a few folks attending, and so we'll give it a couple seconds. My name is Dana Bennett, and I'm a Technical Assistant Specialist for the South Carolina Partnerships for Inclusion. Today, we have our TA team joining us. That's Melissa Griffin, she's our Technical Assistance Coordinator. Ladrika Jones, who's also a Technical Assistant Specialist. Carrie Canengeiser, our Program Director, is here as well. And they'll be helping me with the chat box and the Q&A. And I see that participants are continuing to join on. I can see the number, but it's a webinar, so I won't see your faces and I won't hear your voices. But you can go ahead and we'll have lots of participation options within the chat box and the Zoom polls. So I can't wait to hear from you soon. Go ahead and put your name, your role, and your district or location in the chat box so we know who's here today. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward. As we begin, please think through one or two practices that you are proud of and are willing to share. The benefits of your preschool program that you have right now. Write them in the chat. And it might be something with leadership, your staff, the services you offer, training in the district, the climate, the curriculum, the assessment, the interactions. Let's allow our strengths and ideas to lift us up in the chat box. Don't be shy. Let's see if there's some positive things that you would like to share today. I think one thing I would share about our team is the collaborative efforts that we do. So it helps lift us up every day, especially when we're a little nervous. We need to focus on our strengths like we do our student strengths. There we go. Thank you for adding some feedback in there. All right, I think we're going to dig deeper into indicator 6 at this time. Despite the education, research, and the laws, the percentage of preschool children with disabilities attending regular early childhood programs and receiving the majority of their special ed services in those settings has remained relatively unchanged according to the data collected by the United States Department of Education. And I think this little cutie patootie here is just a surprise to some of us when we think about how little inclusion has grown in our country. So what is indicator 6, preschool LRE? LRE requirements of the IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Act, states that to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities, including children in public or private institutions or other care facilities, are educated with children who are non-disabled. The IDEA's LRE provision does not distinguish between school-aged and preschool-aged children, and therefore applies equally to all preschool children with disabilities. The Department of Education requires states to report on educational environments for preschool children with disabilities. The data collection requires states to report on the number of preschool children with disabilities who attend a regular early childhood program and whether they receive the majority of special education related services in that regular education program or another location. Throughout the presentation, I'll be adding the DEC, or the Division of Early Childhood Recommended Practices, as it relates to LRE. Here comes one now. Special ed is not a place. Instead, LRE should be thought of as all the supports and services that lead to, hold on one second here, that lead to a meaningful education. In the first environmental indicator, E1, supports and services include accommodations or modifications addressed by the IEP team, the materials used, the student's peers, whether the student is sitting in the classroom, as well as adult assistants. And the next indicator that applies here is E3, and it expands the idea of environment to more than just a brick and mortar physical classroom, to add on social and temporal environments ideas as well. And we're going to dig deeper into each of these types of environments to make sure we're on the same page. And I will have a question for you afterwards. The physical environment includes the selection and physical layout of space, the arrangement of furniture and resources, as well as the lighting and floor coverings, and the creation and organization of learning centers. All children must be able to safely access and engage in the learning opportunities in both indoor and outdoor learning spaces. The physical environment should encourage play, right? It's very important in exploration, interactions, and inquiry through the arrangement of space and equipment. We don't normally think of active and quiet spaces when we think of least restrictive environments, but it certainly makes a difference in the child's ability to self-regulate and if they have space that is quiet when they need it. If a room is too overstimulating, we can cause students to lose control. In regard to classroom decor, I've had to take down some cute, well-intentioned posters to make room for some child-created projects that show I'm proud of the students who made them. Also, to make sure that the classroom decor is not too overstimulating. A variety of seating options, such as wobble seats that allow for constant movement, carpet squares that define a space, or stools that allow kids with braces to sit more comfortably, is essential to ensure access, participation, support. And we know that's the very definition of inclusion. Access to learning centers ensures that all students can grow and learn in the space that was made for them. So the social environment, school is more than just academics. Yes, I said that. The social development of each child is equally important. The social environment encompasses relationships and interactions between children, teachers, the families, and the rest of the school, and encourages independence. The social environment welcomes the involvement of all families. Children need to build trusting relationships with adults so they can be confident in their explorations and risk-taking. They may need assistance in order to make connections with peers and develop friendships and regulate their behaviors and interactions between teachers and children, as well as children with each other, require opportunities for ongoing multiple modes of communication. Family relationships are built upon communication that honors the family's culture as well. Setting up the environment with engaging and highly motivating materials to ensure social interactions is important to both indoors and outdoors. You know, always think about that outdoor space when we think about LRE as well. We can set up activities and spaces where more than one child can participate, and teachers can facilitate interactions. The last of the different types of environments is the temporal environment, and that includes the management of daily structure of routines, activities, and transitions. And we might not think of transition cues as part of the environment, but a successful transition is important for every child's success. Visual cues, such as the feet pictured on the slide, help a child know where they should be, and picture schedules help them know what is happening and what will be coming next to reduce anxiety and confusion, which we know can cause challenging behaviors. Careful attention to the routine with a balance of individual, small, and large group activities help keep kids engaged and supported as they need. While it isn't always easy to have enough time, allowing enough time for children to go back to centers or activities they enjoy, like if they're in the middle of building a building and they want to go finish it, can also prevent challenging behaviors. Again, that's part of the temporal environment. So we're going to do a quick Zoom poll, and we're going to look at which of these three components, the social, temporal, or physical environments, that you feel most comfortable with. I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll now. Here we go. You should be able to see the poll on your screen at this time. So you're just going to click one of those that you feel most comfortable with. There's no right or wrong answer. This is just for you to be able to be a part of our presentation. Make sure that you're still here. Okay. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead. Did everyone get a chance to click on something there? All right. We're going to go ahead and share those results. Okay. So most of you are comfortable with the physical environment, and some of you the temporal, the social less so. And that's okay. We have a link to put in the chat box here, and it's to an ECTA, that's the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center Environmental Adaptations Checklist. It'll help you with some of those adaptations that you can add to the environment. And there's also a lot of material on there on how to set up that environment. Also, at Skippy, we can help you with that as well. If you ask, we would love to help you, and we'll have our contact information at the end. So you can go ahead, and if the poll doesn't automatically go off on your screen, you can go ahead and click the red X, and it'll be removed from your screen so that you can see the rest of the slides. Thank you. Okay. There are options on where a child can receive special education services. Preschoolers can be educated in a school district, preschool program, or in an early childhood setting in the community with their typically developing peers. A continuum of placement options does exist. Different school districts may provide different options, so it's important to discuss these with your school district. In all cases, placement decisions must be made individually, determined on the basis of each child's abilities and needs, and on each child's IEP, and not solely on factors such as category of disability, severity of disability, availability of special ed and related services, configuration of the service delivery system, availability, space, or administrative convenience. Again, placement decisions must be made individually, determined on the basis of the child's abilities and needs. So where can a child learn? In the chat box, let's see if you can list some of the places that children can learn. Again, this isn't a gotcha. It's not going to be terribly complicated. For example, children can learn in a grocery store. They see us making lists, finding where items are kept, categorizing, paying for food and other things. So they can learn in a grocery store. Where else can children learn? Right. Home, playground, classrooms, friends. Thanks, Laura. On the playground, in a park, library, daily chores. So right. Thank you for your participation. Children can learn in all those beautiful places and interact with their age-appropriate peers. To be clear, according to the Department of Education, informal settings such as playgroups are not generally required to comply with the state's early learning program standards or curricula that we use, and would not be considered a regular early childhood program. So I just want to make that clear. For the purposes of OSIS, that's Office of Special Ed Services, required data collection, a regular early childhood program is defined as a program that includes a majority, at least 50% of non-disabled children without an IEP. A more natural ratio would be 70% of the students without documented needs and 30% of students with IEPs, but that's not part of the law. This may include, but is not limited to, the following: Head Start, kindergarten, preschool classes offered to an eligible pre-kindergarten population by the public schools, like a 4K classroom. Private kindergartens or preschools, group child development centers, or community child care center. This leadership indicator encourages leaders to work with other educational settings and agencies to increase inclusionary services and supports. And this team collaboration indicator encourages members to access community-based services to meet a family's needs. Again, the DEC practices will embed those as we go. So who decides? Who decides where a student will receive services? The family members and a group of professionals who are knowledgeable about the child are going to make those decisions. Those members need to know the meaning of the evaluation data, the placement options, and any harmful effects. The DEC practices that are related are as follows. So that I don't have to read through each word and you don't have to listen to me read through each word, I'd like for you to look at, what are some key words that you see on this slide? What are some key words that might be important here on this slide? I'll give you a second to look over the slide and that'll help you process through it. Team, right. Team working together, that's right. Families might be a key word. Full participants. Shared, thank you, right? Shared decision making. And know, they have to know the child, right? Together, work together. Thank you, Tanya. Very good. Awesome. I love that participation. It helps me so that, because all I can see is me, and I love to hear from you. Thank you. These are some helpful questions suggested by ECTA, which is the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, and are intended to assist in the IEP team discussions. These questions would be backed by data and several observations while you get to know that child, which help establish baseline data. A more complete list of guiding questions is available, and we'll put that link inside. Thank you, Ladrika. She's putting those links in the chat box for us. This DEC practice is an assessment indicator, directly relates to obtaining information about the child to be able to develop the IEP and meet the child's needs, which we know is very, very important to individualization. And speaking of individualization, the IDEA states that special classes, separate schooling, and other removal of children with disabilities from regular education environment occurs only if the nature or severity of the disability is such that the education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services, I'm going to say that part again, with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. So we try first to use those supplementary aids and services right before removal. In addition, under the law, the placement team, which includes the child's parent and may include the child's current teacher, must consider any potential harmful effects on the child and the quality of services that he or she needs before removing the child from the current regular public preschool setting to another more restrictive setting. Those are all components of the IDEA law. So what are those supplementary aids and services? The DEC instructional practice that reminds us that it can be accommodations or modifications to the curriculum, how the curriculum is presented, or how the progress is measured. But that's not all it can be. Supplementary aids and services can also include direct services and supports to the child, support and training for staff who work with that child. Just think of what we could do if we ensured that regular education teachers received the support and training they would like. And this part's been added to the IDEA as of 2004, the academic, extracurricular, and non-academic environments available to and of interest to the child. The environmental DEC practices that support these ideas remind us to think about identifying and acquiring assistive technology appropriate for the child, some of which are high-tech, like communication devices that a child might need, and some are low-tech, such as the printed pictures and choice boards that you see right here, this little child using. This is the decision tree that's used to report educational environments for children ages 3 to 5 with IEPs. The big question, I'm going to get out my pen here, is the child enrolled in a regular early childhood program? If the answer is yes, right here, you are reporting in the blue section related to educating children with at least 50% non-disabled peers. If the answer is no, over here in the green section, you are reporting on programs that are separate from non-disabled peers, like self-contained classrooms or separate schools. A question districts might want to ask themselves is, does professional development address the need for training on how to enter the data, the accuracy of data, the timeliness of data, and LRE environmental codes, like you see here? To find this LRE decision tree, then we're going to put another link in the chat. It's at ideadata.org, and that'll be in the chat as well. And this is one that's commonly used. Okay, we're going to refer back to that chart. This is the equation used to determine the percentage of students with IEPs in regular education programs. We want this number to go up. And if you see here, you see A1 and B1, and I go back, I can show you that A1 and B1 are here and here on our decision tree under the regular education environments, okay? So this number we want to go up. This is the equation used to determine the percentage of students with IEPs in separate special education programs. We'd like this number to go down, okay? C1, C2, and C3 are located over here. All right. All right, I'm going to move forward. So let's practice with two different scenarios. I'm going to go ahead and read through the scenario because it may be small on your screen, but read along with me and see if you can follow on the decision tree, and then we'll work through it together. River is a 3-year-old girl who qualifies for special education services due to a significant delay in the area of speech and language and social communication skills. She will be receiving those services 4 half-days per week in the local school district at an elementary school that has a self-contained classroom with a special ed teacher in a neighboring school. All 8 of the students in her classroom have developmental delays. So let's see where River attends. So the big question, and you can help me out in the chat box. Let me click on the chat box here. Okay. If the child's, so is River enrolled in a regular early childhood program? It looks like we don't see anything about a regular early childhood program, right? It looks like she is in, it says right here, receiving those 4 half days in a self-contained classroom. So is she attending a special ed program? Looks like she is. And where does she receive the special ed related services? In a separate class? If you said separate class, you were right. She receives them in her self-contained classroom, right? With a special ed teacher, with her peers. So I have a question for you. What if she went to childcare for the other half of the day? What would that mean in the decision tree? Well, that's kind of a trick question because it depends on where she receives the majority of her services. If she receives her services in this separate class, then it still means that you would code this as C1 or a separate class. Okay. All right, we're going to try with the next scenario. Marcus. Marcus is a 3-year-old boy who qualifies for special education services due to fine motor delays. He attends Little Kids childcare on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 12 for 4 hours per day, while his mother goes to a part-time job. Little Kids childcare works with the local school district with an itinerant teacher who works with his teacher to embed his goals and any accommodations he uses into the daily routine with 30 minutes per week of direct instruction with an occupational therapist. There are 11 total students in the classroom. 5 of those children have IEPs. 3 are for speech delays only, and 1 for delays in all of the developmental areas. Which educational environment do we need to report for Marcus? Let's work through it together. And you can go ahead and add comments in the chat box as we go through if you wish. So is Marcus enrolled in a regular early childhood program? Yes, right? He goes to Little Kids childcare. How many hours does he attend a regular education program? We said 12, right? So it would be at least 10 hours a week. And where does he receive the majority of the special ed and related services? We can see that he gets it right there, even his OT, at his regular early childhood program. Okay, so he's receiving the itinerant services. So he would receive that, he would get that A1 code of regular early childhood program. While the number of public pre-K programs has increased, there has not been a proportionate expansion of inclusive early childhood opportunities for young children with disabilities, particularly for 3-year-olds. In these situations, the LEA must explore alternative methods to ensure that the LEA requirements are met for each preschool child with a disability. And that might be providing opportunities for participation of preschool children with disabilities and preschool programs operated by public agencies other than that LEA or the school district, like Head Start or community-based childcare, or enrolling preschool children with disabilities in private preschool programs like Little Kids childcare. Creating classes for preschool children with disabilities in regular public elementary schools, or providing home-based services. Okay. I'm thinking about some of the positive things that you were thinking about earlier in our positive practices power. To ensure high-quality preschool, we know, according to NACI and a lot of other sources, that we need to set up classrooms, choose materials, and plan activities that support children's learning. Curriculums based on pre-K standards and student interests. Teachers plan and adapt curriculum to individualize. Regular assessment informs instruction, and we encourage family involvement. We're going to add a link into the chat box here with indicators of high quality preschool listed by the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, ECTA. But I would encourage you to look for other resources too, like NEYC or SCACE in our area. The DEC recommended practices associated with high quality are as follows. Environmental practices 2 addresses universal design for learning, or we call that a UDL, which is an approach to teaching and learning that gives all students an equal opportunity to succeed. The goal of UDL is to use a variety of teaching methods to remove any barriers to learning. It's about building in flexibility that can be adjusted for every person's strengths and needs. Environmental practices 6 addresses movement and regular physical activity. Family practice 5 addresses recognizing and building on family strengths and capacities. Interactions practices 2 promotes a child's social development during routines and activities, which is part of the social environment we talked about earlier. And leadership practice 11 encourages leaders to collaborate or to develop or revise state competencies related to inclusion on evidence-based practices. So why is LRE important to talk about? Why did we spend some time today talking this over? Let's see if you can put some ideas into your chat. There we go. On some of the things, some of the ideas that you think why you feel that LRE might be important, or why you took time out of your day to be here. Why is this important? So it's not only because it's the law, correct? It's because LRE is important to increase inclusion. Oh, I'm seeing some things. I'm going to stop talking for a second and look. Many benefits of inclusive services for all preschool students, correct, Laura? Children who start preschool in segregated settings are more likely to remain in segregated settings. And research does back that up. Data shows that children learn in inclusive settings. Thank you, Tanya. And there's more opportunities to be held at higher expectations. And we want to make sure we're increasing those inclusive opportunities, right? Belonging in preschools is so important because that's where children get those foundational skills that help them to stay in school and thrive in education, prevent dropout, and increase graduation rates, and become full members of the community later on. South Carolina Ready, or SC Ready as we refer to it, is about becoming college and career ready. So to be prepared for the future. Okay. Oh. Am I seeing another one? Both children with disabilities and without benefit from interacting and growing together in inclusive settings. Thank you so much. You're all right. Thank you for your input. It's important to discuss LRE also because we want to ensure that over time, the percentage of children who have opportunities to attend a regular education environment with their peers, and that would be the green bars in this graph, increases. As we can see here, it remained the same over the last 10 years and then actually decreases in 2020. And there might be a variety of reasons for that, including COVID and some other reasons. But it does remain relatively the same over time as reported. The SPP acronym here stands for the State Performance Plan, and the APR stands for the Annual Performance Reports. That's where we get this data. In summary, practitioners, teachers, paraprofessionals, therapists, administrators who work with the family and other adults provide services to do the following: provide services and supports in natural inclusive settings. Consider UDL for learning practices, modify and adapt physical, social, and temporal environments. We talked about those. Identify each child's needs for assistive technology. Acquire, create appropriate assistive technology. Create environments that provide opportunities for movement and regular physical activity. We've talked about all of these. Promote each child's access to and participation in learning experiences. And we know that's part of the definition of inclusion. We've gone through all these indicators or practices in the context of our time together. Additionally, we've looked at other recommended practices in the area of assessment, family, instruction, interactions, teaming, collaboration, and leadership. We know we need to ensure that there's a continuum of service delivery models. To do this, we can examine staff configurations, community collaboration models, professional development activities, but there is more we can do. And these two sites here are a good place to start. We'll go ahead. Ladrika is being so helpful in putting those in the chat box for me. Thank you so much, Ladrika. I really appreciate it. And you might consider applying for the Special Ed Itinerant Teacher or SEIT Academy to learn more about the itinerant model. The SEIT Academy prepares districts to implement an itinerant model of instruction, like the model that Marcus participated in at Little Kids Child Care Center, along with social emotional development and the pyramid model, as well as instruction on developing partnerships, coaching, and consultation. That link, we'll go ahead and put that link in the chat box. Thank you as well. And then that way you can find out more on that. You'll be getting in touch with Nicole Randall, and we have our SEIT itinerant coach is even on the webinar here. So I know she'll be a lot of help, and that's Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. The next slide talks about our 2023 South Carolina CEC conference coming right up on February 16th through 18th with a free pre-conference. And that's a great way to learn more about high quality early learning environments and strategies that promote inclusive practices. We're going to put several links in the chat. So if you wanted to register for the pre-conference, all you need to do is click the link and find out more on how to register there. You can click on the link for the CEC, South Carolina CEC conference itself, where you'll find a Skippy strand of early childhood sessions that you can register for as well, and all the information about the conference. We have an evaluation that we'll share in the chat box following the summary on the next page. Please fill out the evaluation as the feedback informs our instruction to ensure we're delivering the most relevant information for you. Until that link is shared, can you please take the time to share one takeaway from this LRE webinar that you might use or bring back to your district or your team? What is one takeaway that you might take back to your team? Okay. And the evaluation link is now in the chat box. Okay, you can go ahead and begin to do that as if right after this slide. The first placement option considered for a preschool child with a disability is the regular public preschool program the child would have attend if the child did not have a disability. That's the first thing considered. The LRE influences where a child spends his or her time at school, how services are provided, and the relationships the child develops within the school and community. Are there any questions that you have that you would like addressed? And check the Q&A box. I don't see any questions there, but you can feel free and put those in the chat box at this time. If you have any questions on that, make sure that you fill out the evaluation link for us. We'd really appreciate it. And you can contact our team at any time. We would love to help you out with any technical assistance or training needs that you have related to this or other indicators. Thank you for attending today's LRE session. On February 28th, we'll take an in-depth look at Indicator 7, Early Childhood Outcomes in relation to DEC Recommended Practices. And on March 29th, we'll look at Indicator 12, Early Childhood Transitions, and we hope you join us for both. Please be sure to complete the evaluation and have a wonderful afternoon. We appreciate your time.